Good evening, my name is Rose Blaze and this is a live book show where we meet authors discussing different aspects of their literary works. And with us this evening we have Stella Only with us, who has written a book called Deadly Sacrifice.
Thanks, Rose. It's wonderful to be here.
Wonderful. Okay, Stella, as I do, let's kickstart the show by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I was born in Britain,
Mm-hmm.
grew up in Nigeria, came back to Britain in my 20s, as a young adult, and did a bit of, when you come back, when we came like that, a lot of us came around the same period. So did a bit of work. I actually worked in a bakery for a little bit, and then went into working as a librarian. And I've enjoyed being a librarian for a long time. How I got into writing, I do a lot of reading.
Yes.
Read a lot. I read widely, so not just literary fiction and crime fiction.
Yes.
And one day I just decided that I wanted to be a writer.
Wow, wonderful book too. Can I just compliment you on your book? I thought it was a wonderful read. It was very enthralling, very in depth, complex characters, interpersonal relationships. I loved it. Once I got into it, it was difficult to put the book down. So it was, gravitated to it. So thank you very much. It was wonderful to read it. It was wonderful to have that. How can I say? It's like a gift. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
So can I ask you to tell the audience a little bit about the book?
Okay. So Deadly Sacrifice it's kind of like the big theme around it is human trafficking. So it's got three lead characters.
Yes.
So we've got Toksade, who is I would say the lead character.
Yes.
And then we've got Philip Dean. So Toksade is British Nigerian.
Yes.
She's a single parent.
Right.
She was a uniformed officer for 10 years before she became a police detective. So she was a new detective when Deadly Sacrifice started.
Yes.
Then we have Philip Dean, who is white British, not quite fitting into the system so well, but very, very good at his work, well trusted.
Yes.
And then we've got Coretta, tenacious. She used to be a investigative reporter.
Yes.
So that's what she did. And then she became a true crime author.
Yes.
And she won many awards for that.
Yes.
So she does her own thing.
Yes.
And she's very nice, but she could be
quite manipulative.
Yes,
quite selfish.
As you know, and she does one or two things that are not quite, in order to get what she wants, she'll do a few things that are not quite by the book.
Yes, by the book, under the table.
And she gets into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, she gets into hot waters.
Wait for the second one.
Yeah, honestly, I loved it. And just to add to that, like you say, it was a human trafficking story where a young child was murdered, and another young child was, we didn't even know at the time, abducted, taken away, just went missing.
Yes.
And I know the story then develops, and we eventually find out what happens to these two children towards the end of the book. But readers, you have got to read this book. It's so enthralling. So in 2016, I know you were shortlisted by the SI Leeds Literary Agency.
Literary Prize,
Literary Prize,
yes.
So well done for that.
Thank you.
There was recognition about, this book being really good. Okay, so Stella, as I was reading along, I understood that you are a food blog writer.
Yes.
Food lover.
Yes, I am.
Cake decorator.
Yes. I am.
I'm trying to think, where is this is so far apart. Crime writer.
The connection.
What's the connection?
That started, funny enough, I was writing, Deadly Sacrifice,
Yeah.
I've been writing it on and off for 15 years.
15 years.
It's a long time. I started about 15 years ago.
Wow, right.
Try to get, send it out to agents. Some would keep it, some would give feedback. So over time, I call it my wine. How your wine gets kind of like over time matured. That's what happened with Deadly Sacrifice. So agents, some of them were quite kind enough. I know one or two. Kind enough to come back with feedback, and I'll put that in, and I'll put that in, so over time, take some things out. So it kind of developed over time before Jacaranda took it on.
Nicely balanced.
So in between that time, waiting for, it can be frustrating. So new authors or new writers, this is a lesson. So in between waiting, I decided to look for what other things was I interested in.
Yes.
So cake decorating, I used to bake, and I thought, why don't I learn how to cover a cake? I read an article saying that, writers, it was to writers, look, don't you wait around and be moping around. Why don't you look for something?
What else can you do?
What else can you do? So I went to a friend and I said, could I learn how to cover a cake from you? And she said, actually, I'll teach you, but there's a cake class somewhere. Why don't you come along? And that's how I got into cake decorating. Got into it. Yeah.
I was laughing when I read it.
It is such an instant gratification thing because it takes time to do.
Yeah.
But
once it's finished, they look so beautiful. They do.
Absolutely stunning.
So you're good at it then?
Very good.
Oh, excellent.
I must say, I practice over time.
Excellent.
So that's what happened. And then with food blogging, I got a blog called African Britishness.
Okay.
Which is talking about being British and African. And one of the things I did was, I love Nigerian food. I'm talking about Nigerian food and the Nigerian scene, in that time. So so because of that, I started blogging about Nigerian food.
Yes.
But funny enough, I'm not that adventurous in cooking it. So I've got a friend who actually really cooks. So I said, okay, once in a while I'll do a show. Right. So the things I write about, why don't you cook it? So we're going to do that. But I do like the smell and the scene and everything about food.
One thing I recognized in this storyline is you talk a lot about Nigerian food. In this country and in Africa, because the characters travel and they speak about the food, the smells, the types of food. Oh my goodness, I was salivating, honestly. I was like, I want some of this now because I know, but I love Nigerian food as well, African food. Yes. And I was, you talk about it a lot in the book, so you've kind of married them in some ways, which I liked, I must say. Okay, so that led me to another theme in the book, which is, you talk a lot about class distinction. Honestly, and so many of the characters, some of the people who were named in terms of suspects, lived in very plush Surrey, in detached houses, and others lived on council estates in, very, less than desirable means.
Yes.
But, very much so, you made a really clear distinction there. Was that intentional?
I think it's British.
Yeah.
Okay. And Nigerian. Basically, growing up, coming here as a young adult. Right. So growing up in Nigeria you have this big divide between rich and poor. And in Britain you have the class system. So having grown up in both cultures, I kind of absorbed those things. So in Nigeria, you don't really have what they call class. You have the middle class, by the way, in Nigeria now, but you have that distinction. So you could be as poor as whatever and have relatives that are just incredibly rich, or relatives that are poor. That's right. And then in Britain, because I kind of went into journalism and so many things. When I started my writing, I started writing articles on journalism. So you get invited as a journalist into different places. Really different. And you see different things. Yes. So I could see the different distinctions. Yes. Because I write a lot about class.
You did. And one thing I noticed is the times I visited Nigeria was this disparity between rich and poor.
It is huge.
And the lifestyle, the high life and village life, very, very different. And so when you wrote about it in the book, again, a lot of your own personal life experiences, I'd seen reflected in your book. I loved it. So, you know, that was wonderful of you. The other thing, when, you know, we talked about motivation, you know, you speak a lot about breaking down barriers. And I wanted to know why that, you know, why you felt that was important to talk about, because I know this is one of the things that you wanted to impart to the reader. So talk to me, please, about the motivation and the breaking down of barriers.
In breaking down barriers, I mean, before Black Lives Matter happened, I mean, there's more awareness now, there's more consciousness to learn more about Black lives. But before that, it was almost as if people existed, like, you know, in terms of like my characters, like Toksade, she's African, she's Black African. She's a woman that struggles with weight, you know. she probably, you know, she hasn't got a pure, because she came to as a young adult, so she's got an accent, you know, might not be as strong as mine, but she's got an accent. So there are quite a lot of women like that out there in the system, in the NHS, in you know, different parts of society. But you don't see them in books. You don't see them in.
You don't see them represented.
You don't see them represented in our communities.
You don't see them represented.
So
in our literature.
Yes, I consciously wanted a woman that was part of the system, and there will be more like that.
But your book had several, which was so lovely, because you got that flavour. I got that sense of, a really strong sense of, you know, the culture. And, you know, the subtleties in terms of behaviours and language. I really loved it. And food. So thank you for that, because you were able to demonstrate that really well in this book. Okay, so another aspect of the reading I got, when we look at racism, for example, you speak quite a bit about racism in the book, and it reflects through the subtleties of conversations between the characters. And reflected, the irony of it was, I read that one of the characters, which was one of the lead characters, Philip Dean's sister, Emily, who was in a home for, you know, mental health issues, basically, you know, she was speaking to him, and you saw the racial subtleties coming out. And I thought to myself, and this is a head teacher. This was a head teacher in a school. So they speak about unconscious bias, they speak about racism, but just racism broadly speaking. This lady was a teacher. She was a mentor, a representative in terms of teaching our children. Do you know what I mean? And how much, if any, of that was kind of coming out, if ever? So I thought that was really cleverly done.
She was actually, because she was ill and so many things were mixed up within her. She was an excellent head teacher when she was, but being ill, things come out. So, So with her, came out that were not safe. Sometimes unsavory things can come out at different times. So that was what happened with her.
And again, what I liked is the way in which you were able to note the subtleties of racism, whether overt or unconscious. So it really came out in the book. For example, Tokes, you know, the main character, would be at work, and her colleagues being police officers as well. It comes out, but she was able to manage that and just harness her feelings and just ride through it, rather than confront it openly there and then, because there's a time and place for everything. And I'm not going to sort of look now and say, right, what's wrong. I will just say that she was able to manage that, so much so that she was able to excel in her place of work and in this new position without the trappings of, you know,
what was around her.
Yes.
And another thing to say is that I think we're all kind of like stuck in this, I don't know, we're like actors in this system. So some people might come out not realizing that they are unconsciously being that.
Right.
So they're coming out thinking, oh yeah, we're making a joke, or we're trying to, you know, be friendly.
Yes.
But you know, all that comes out.
Political correctness and all that stuff.
Yes, it comes out in different ways.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So again, loads and loads of messages in this book about different things, even other than the stories itself. I was finding other things that was hitting home for me.
Wow.
You know, and so it was really interesting.
Some of them are, I think, like as you write along, sometimes, you know, it's human, isn't it? It's we all have similar experiences. So sometimes someone's experience or the character's experience might be something that just resonates with you.
Right.
Yes. Because I remember a book I just finished recently, and it was set in America, in some small town in America. I tell you, it resonated with me so well. I was thinking, what is the connection? It was a YA book, but it really, really resonated with me. That I put it down. It was a debut, and I couldn't forget it. I kept thinking about it. So it's kind of the human condition.
Yes,
so
exactly.
many things. So even if the author is writing, sometimes it might not be intentional, but you just see all those things there. Yeah.
And the book itself, the story itself was gravitating. It was so enthralling, and I was really captivated by it. The story, yet I was still looking at all these different themes and readily identifying with them and thinking about them, actively thinking about them independently of the story itself. So yeah, that was a lot of clever stuff going on there. So well done, Stella. I mean, dual stuff. Honestly, it takes a lot. Some people actually find it difficult to write in the third person, but you had, third content going on.
I like layers.
Yeah.
I like layers. So you could, take it any way you want.
Yeah.
Read it as a pure crime thriller.
Yes.
Read it,
and it was so interesting.
And you could read it and then start trying to look for those layers.
They were they were coming out so clearly, very cleverly written. So looking about the messages then that you want to convey, you spoke about reading the book with an open mind, and I was thinking, well, okay, Stella, in what context? What do you mean? What did you mean? Well, in terms of the messages you wanted to
just take it as a story. So read it as a story and get your own meaning. Get your what you want to get out of it, because different people will come up with different things. Because I've had the first set of readers feedback I've had. Yes, there was a lot of feedback on the rich and the poor. That my books would always have that in there somehow. Would have the disparity. Maybe it's an obsession with me. So you will see that in
maybe a really
lot
deep
of my
experience with you. You've been in a country, a very rich first world country, and a very poor African nation, or aspects of it.
Yes.
So I can see that.
So you see that a lot, But in terms of reading it, just read it and take your own kind of like meaning
take on it.
Take your take on it, really.
I mean, for me, it was being more aware of the class distinction, of unconscious bias and things like that.
And the affluence in Nigeria,
the affluence, the opulence. My goodness, honestly.
I mean, like in Nigeria at the moment, because of the roads, the bad roads, you have the really well off going from one place to the other, and they hop on a helicopter straight to
hop.
So
hop.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
And private planes and everything. Helicopters, so they don't have to travel on the road like the ordinary man. They don't have to experience what the ordinary man experiences. So what you read there is
the opulence was breathtaking. I was like,
there is an extreme poverty as well. So
So moving on then to talk about the lessons learnt, because like I said, there's so much information in this book, and so much about the interpersonal characters or interpersonal relationship between the different characters.
Yes.
And there was a few characters in this book. I mean, there was a relationship with one of the characters called Coretta and her husband Richard.
Yes.
And Richard really wanting a child, and Coretta kind of trying to avoid the subject, and that is such a sensitive thing for so many people. Yet it was, in terms of the wider story, quite minor, yet huge. So I was like, oh my gosh, where do I stick to? Is my attention in the crime thriller, or is my attention in this really interpersonal, really, what can I say, just very tough situation, and I'm glad that ended well, but that's for the reader to go and find out. So the lessons learned then. Now, we spoke about this earlier, and the lessons learned for me are probably quite abstract, and not necessarily a part of the story. So in terms of the lessons learned, I don't know what you think the lessons for the reader were.
In terms of lesson learned is for the reader to, when I say have an open mind, maybe when you finish reading, when you see the average African woman in whichever scenario you see her, maybe look again. So don't just look and the average carer, because you have a lot of Africans that are in care.
Yes, domicile care.
They're carers.
Yes.
So you've come across them in so many different aspects of society, but you don't really think about them or who they are. So think again.
Or their potentials, yeah.
Yes, think again. In terms of other characters in the book, they are who they are. We're all part of the system. So what I set out to do in terms of having these three lead characters is to say, we're here and everybody, we're all here together, and we can actually all understand and be together and work together if we understood ourselves, if we take away the bias and really see ourselves clearly. Because at the moment, I don't think we do. I think people see, I would say, maybe color first, as sad as it is, before you see anything else.
And social standing.
So I call it the construction. So you see me, you hear me, I've got a Nigerian accent, I'm a black woman, and the same here. So I'm not saying we're all innocent, we have stereotypes. And you see me and you don't know me yet, but you already have that impression.
That impression of you.
And it's only when I start having a chat with you and you start getting to know me that you say, oh wow.
The diversity in your experiences,
so you're this, right? But then have that open mind so that I don't form that bias. And I'm teaching myself to not form those opinions as well, and not take it for granted that you're here because you speak this way and you look this way.
And that is so interesting, it's really great, and your characters are such strong, foreboding women, so you get this impression straight away that actually, these characters have depth. These characters have an interesting story to tell, because a lot of them have so many secrets. You find out so many secrets about these individual characters, and like I said, I saw a lot of tenacity, of mind and boldness in these characters as well. So like you say, don't judge a book by its cover. Really try and get a wider understanding of people, which is kind of part of the lessons to be learnt. I mean, for me, there was tolerance, about being tolerant of other people and trying to understand who they are rather than the prejudging. I also had an appreciation of difference, appreciating who these different characters are and what it is that they had to go through, because so many of them had challenges that they had to almost set aside for the purpose of work, for example, like Philip and Emily. She was a really challenging situation, and he was having to sort of juggle between her, and Tokes was trying to balance between work and Bodhi. And it's not easy.
Sure, that's real life.
That's real life. And diversity as well. Really kind of embracing diversity. Safety and safeguarding, well, that for me was a huge one. I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on that, because your book was definitely about perhaps communities being more aware of what's happening. What's going on?
What is going on? Without spoilers, it's just about young people and what is going on with young people out there. And in terms of deadly sacrifice, in fact, it's more now. So you read it and you're maybe shocked at some of the things that happen with the young people. But realizing that even now they're even getting younger because you have social media, they have so much exposure out there. So what is on there is it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse because it's more hidden. So if you hand an 8-year-old a phone and you don't police what they see on that phone, then it's even worse because they are more exposed. So what you see in the book is even worse.
It is. Because we have a character called Venus who is 9 years old. And Venus is way beyond her years in terms of her understanding and her experiences. I find it quite shocking. As even as a social worker, as a mother, just as a woman in my community, my diaspora of people, or just a mother, any mother, I kind of thought, oh my gosh, what this child had been through, what she'd experienced, how she was looked at by her local community, how she was visualized, It was kind of sad. And then her mother. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about Venus's mother, because I found that quite sad.
It was.
So I don't know if you can tell us a little bit about, because like I said, this child was far too exposed to too much too young. So could we speak about a little bit about the vulnerabilities of the mothers, because socially this is really telling these days on matters.
So what is out there really is that you have a lot of very responsible, very brave single parents, as you know, with Tokes, you know, struggling with her son for so long, and then you have some who have, through one thing or the other, fell through the cracks and maybe turned to drugs, and then of course mental illness developed. But the problem is that the children, if they have children, the children are vulnerable. So sometime before the system catches on, or before the awareness comes, damage will have happened to those children. So, which is quite sad, you know. So, and it was quite a difficult thing to write about as well, in terms of, because you, as a writer, you're saying, should I write this or shouldn't I write it? But you say, but it's out there. So if you're not writing it, who is going to, who's going to talk about it? So it's very, very difficult things to write about. So many different layers.
It was profound for me.
Yeah, quite profound. Very
it was because you there saw, you know, this inherent generational dysfunction.
Yes.
That's how I can describe it.
Yes.
And from mother to daughter, and it continues. And you know, it was about the community view about it. And I did write down here protection from the harmful effects of those in need.
Yes.
So you know, those who are in need, they themselves need help, but at the same time.
Sorry to jump in.
I want you
to. So that's another thing that I noticed, because of the class system inherent in Britain, for example. So those set of people, those kind of class of people are not, nobody actually comes and says, I understand you. In fact, there's a lot of talk at the moment that there's not a lot of books from working class people to hear the voices of working class people. It's almost as if they're there, and not that they don't exist, they exist, but nobody really bothers to say, how is your life? Who are you? You are just seen as a non-person, you know. I mean,
non-entity,
you know. And I see that, you know, I walk on the streets of certain areas, and I see that, and I feel a sense of sadness that
almost forgotten, aren't they?
Forgotten, and
just unimportant.
There's contempt as well, you know, for their lives.
Yes.
And they themselves are quite defensive, but sometimes they don't even have the voice to you know, to come out and say and voice their frustration by the way. And so everybody's stuck in this generational thing going on, and one manages to escape into, quite a few manage to escape into middle class, and they go back and look at, oh, this is the life I had. And so I saw that on Twitter, actually, just as recent as was it yesterday or 2 days ago. Someone was saying, oh yeah, I was brought up in a council estate, and you know, I really, really wanted to see sci-fi, but from the, you know, from the point of view of a child living in a council estate and all that, but I don't see that.
No.
And that came out in Twitter, you know, and I said, oh wow, you know.
Yes, and we're talking
so
about
there should be more things from the working class. There should be, you know, a move away from, so who is the working class? Let's start with that. Who is the working class? Why are they the working class? Why are they stuck?
Exactly. And your book represented this quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, you speak a lot about, you know, the crime that was happening around the estate. And, you know, I recognize Tokes and Philip Dean, you know, walking through the estates, interviewing different sets of people. But even the way in which you wrote about it, it was quite clear. You got a really good, vivid picture of the scene, of what it was, you know, how these people lived and where these people lived. And to me, it did feel a bit like rabbit warrens. You know, seriously. You know, these little boxes, and these little boxes in which people lived. And then you did very well in capturing the nature of these people. We spoke earlier about one particular family with the daughter, the son, and the mother. And the behaviours, the disrespect for law enforcement, you know, the lack of respect generally for humanity, if you like, or humanism. You know, it's like, but. They were quite dismissive and really off-key, and I was like, oh, this is so sad. You know, so you captured that really, really well. So in terms of using the book even for anthropology or just a social construct lesson, this book would be really good, other than even what you wrote it intentionally for. So well done for that. So, talking about inspiring the reader now, if we can try to pick it up a bit. Inspiring the reader, tell me how and in what way you ideally want to inspire the reader from Deadly Sacrifice.
In terms of the reader, I just want people to read it. So it's a good story. So even though it's a lot of heavy subjects that we've discussed this evening, if you really want to read it as a thriller and a good story, it's there.
It's there.
If you want to examine the layers, that is there as well.
Yes.
So taking away, it's there's a real divide between the rich and the poor. But I tried as much as possible to show affluence in both Britain, that is poor in Britain and affluence in Britain, and the same for Nigeria. I didn't really cover as much poverty. I think I did with the hawkers.
Yes, you did the hawkers in the street.
The hawkers on the street.
Trying to sell them sweets. And
yes. And then you have this huge affluence, Yes. So just
palatial buildings.
Yes. So read it as a good story if you want to read it as a good story. And if you want to then, see more out of it, then I think different people will take away different things from it.
Definitely.
But there's some quite difficult subjects,
In terms of being inspired, as a writer myself, I kind of took to, wow, there's a way in which you can perfect this art, developing ourselves as writers, being better, bigger and better as we go. And you spoke a lot about that as well, about, the want and desire to develop yourself as a writer and having good content, quality content, and being persistent and consistent, in terms of your writing style. And I know that you have got loads and loads of other things happening. So I don't know if you want to talk to us, and I'm happy to sort of give you this to guide from, to talk to us about the various things that you're doing. You're doing quite a lot of stuff now, and take your time to tell us about this. Because you're doing so much stuff.
So in terms of the writing, of wanting to be better, a writer could not be a writer without reading.
Right. True.
And I would read anything. I read literary work and read a lot. I'm reading at the moment. I'm reading quite a lot of books by Black authors.
Right.
Yes. Not because I wasn't reading them before, but because there's so much more
coming out now.
Yes.
Yes.
And
true.
Just joined a group in America. It's worldwide, and a lot of, if you're a crime writer. Based in, it's called Crime Writers of Color. It was founded by Walter Mosley, a crime author called Kelly Garrett, and Gigi Pandan. So 3 authors.
Wow.
Yes.
Crime writers.
So three crime writers founded this group, and it's just incredible.
Right.
I'm happy to be part of the family, and I mentioned them a lot.
Yes.
So that is a good support if you want that.
Yes.
In terms of what I'm doing,
need to get some of those writers on the show.
That's it. They're based in the
not?
States.
The diversity of
I hope
authors.
there's more Black crime authors coming out in the UK, both male and female.
Yes.
I really, we
Excellent.
want that. But that is the support I get in America.
Right.
So I'm reading quite a lot. I've discovered more Black crime writers, and I'm quite excited, to be reading their work.
Yes.
Lots of talents there.
Excellent.
Yeah. In terms of me, I'm always full of ideas.
Yes.
Too many ideas coming through. So I've got Toksade, the second in the series. I've got the idea, and I'm slowly writing it out. So same characters, different settings, different crime that happened.
Okay.
Yes.
So is this Deadly Sacrifice 2 or just
a different
title?
Sacrifice. It's another crime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different title?
A different title as
well. All right, okay.
So I'm not going to reveal the title just yet, but it's a different title. But so it's Toksade, Philidine, and Coretta.
Right. So like working towards a trilogy then, possibly.
Yes. So
we get a third book out of you?
Coretta.
Yes.
There were some things that were not quite finished in what she did in her investigation.
Yes,
so she's going to pick up from there.
Because she had to go to Benin and then change her mind.
She changed her mind and she saw this. So there's quite a few things that I wanted to pick up with Coretta. And then Tokes and Philip, there's another crime that they were investigating. So that's the second in the series.
Wow.
So I've got about 4 ideas with the Toksade mystery.
Excellent.
Toksade mysteries. 4 ideas so far.
Yes.
And treating different things.
Do you write quickly, or how quickly? It took you 15 years to write the first. I presume this is because you were distracted with life and so on.
Yes.
Now that you're becoming more streamlined as an author, as a writer, how long roughly do you think it will take before we see the next one?
I get distracted easily by life.
Yes.
I have a friend of mine, my very good friend, who says guard your mind, you know, because I quite allow too many things to sift in. So the best way for me to work is when I don't allow too many things in.
Right.
But I could write quite quickly. So with the next one, I'm hoping to have finished. So I write in the winter, by the way.
Oh, really?
I write every year round.
Right.
But when it comes to writing things like the Toxade mystery,
yes.
Winter has a particular resonance.
Right.
Because it's dark and then you can still
what do you
close
do?
it up. What do you do in the
This is
winter?
what you do.
So yeah, so I write
that's
in the winter.
interesting. Okay.
So, but I've got another two series. I've got a series that I'd written the first draft on, and I should develop it.
Right.
It's a young girl. Her name is Lara.
So this is totally separate from the
completely separate
four books.
See, this is not Toxade Mystery. Toxade Mystery is one series. Another one that I'm working on is called Lara's Investigative Bureau. That's the working title, and it's a girl that she was in the army in Britain, and she got into intelligence in Nigeria, and she's pretty good with computer. So I call her kind of like Lisan. She's like a I don't know whether you know about the Millennium series. It's a trilogy written by gosh, I completely forgot his name, but I'll remember his name. Millennium series is Stieg Larsson. His name is Stieg Larsson. So his main character is Lysander. So I wanted something that was almost like Lysander, but it's a black woman who was in the army, and she works in she lives in a different country, but her scope is international.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I've written the first draft.
Yes.
So that's one girl is teaming away.
So is this just one book, one sort of large book?
It's going to be a series.
It's going to be wow. You're going to have so many books on the go. Okay, so that's the second.
That's one.
Is there more?
Yes, I've got another idea that came during the lockdown of a woman living. I've just set in London. I call it the London House Mystery. It's a cozy mystery this time. I wanted to write something that was not too dark because Stokes
that was heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff, and it's
dark. Human trafficking, that was heavy stuff.
Yes. So I wanted to write a series that is, a woman. So I call her the cross between Miss Marple. And what's her name? Mara Motswe. The two, the cross between. And I'd written the first in that the first part of it in an anthology. So 10 of us in the Crime Writers of Color, 10 of us came together.
Yes.
And
like a collaborative writing.
And we've done an anthology coming out in October called Festive Mayhem. So it's actually set around.
It's been published.
It's been published, so it's coming out in October, but it can be pre-ordered. Festive Mayhem.
Wow.
So 10 writers of color came together, including myself.
Excellent.
And we've put these stories together, set around holidays.
Oh, excellent! So tell me again. Now go back a little bit. So, is it women of color? What did you?
So we're crime writers of color.
Crime writers of color.
So it's actually
in this country?
No, set in America. I wish it was in Britain. They're based in America.
It's the same thing you started telling me about earlier.
Yes.
When you were talking to us. Okay, excellent.
Yes. So the crime writers of color are crime writers of color that have come together to. It's quite informal, so it's not a formal organization. So we just come together voluntarily, like I said, founded by Walter Mosley and two other authors.
Yes, you did say.
And we just kind of like come together, talk. A lot of them are quite, they've done very well, very successful, won prizes. But we're just coming together. There's a website as well, so it's crimewritersofcolor.com.
Oh, excellent.
So you can go and look at all the writers and the authors there.
Wow.
Most of them, like I said, are in America, but quite a few British writers are joining, including myself. So slowly,
So it's a collaborative book of writers from you say this association, and you're publishing the book in October.
Yes.
You've got two other things on the go. I'm not going to repeat it because I'm not going to remember. There's too much going on. It's brilliant. And so you've got all of this going on, and you're managing it. You're doing what you need to do. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So I'm not even going to ask you how you're going to divide up the time to write all of this. But you're doing it.
Yeah, just go on and do what comes first. It's all ideas. But the thing is that sometimes you might have idea, and this is to aspiring writers as well. You might have an idea, and if you don't bring that idea to life, you might think it never works. So with Lara, that is the the army, the ex-army,
Yeah, the series, new
and
series.
the other series, what I thought was that they were ideas, and I thought, oh no, they are just ideas. Let me see if I can bring them to life. And I was surprised to see that I could create Lara. I love Lara, by the way.
Yeah.
I really need to sit down and buckle down and finish.
Now let's talk about Lara. Lara was part of the collective writing initially, wasn't she? She was birthed of the collaborations of writing, wasn't she? Wasn't Laura part of that, or was this somebody else?
Yeah, you're mixing up. Don't let me confuse you.
No, that's cool.
Don't let me confuse you.
Explain to us, because I thought that was lovely the way you did that.
Yeah. So Lara is Lara is Lara's investigative bureau.
Right.
So she's an ex-army, like I said.
Yes.
She lives in Nigeria.
Who's a hacker?
She's a hacker.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So she's not part of any collective.
Right.
She's an idea that came years ago, and I thought this idea of this girl.
Yeah.
How many black women who's African, who can be like a Lisanda in the army, real kick ass, really, she's not Toxade, she's really
she's different.
Very serious. She's very serious. Very serious girl.
Yeah.
And a threat to a lot of people, by the way, because she used to be in the army and she
exactly.
And she lives in Nigeria. So the reason she lives in Nigeria, by the way, is because she could get away with a lot of things that she couldn't get away with if
probably
she was here.
Yes. Understandable.
But a lot of people try to use her.
Wow.
So they use her.
So we've got that all to come.
Yes.
Now who is the story? Who is the person who is part of the collaborative writing that you've now gone on to become a series?
Yes.
Who is this now?
So that is her name is Elizabeth.
Okay.
Yes. So she's a housekeeper in housekeeping for a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a house in Knightsbridge.
Wow.
Not very far from Harrods.
Wow.
And she loves Harrods.
Of course, we all do.
She loves shopping in
Harrods. We all do.
But she likes to sew. So she just got into this being like a Miss Marple by accident.
Right.
She's just a housekeeper in this place.
Yes.
But she became almost like a Miss Marple.
Mm-hmm.
And actually even got involved with British intelligence in there. Seriously.
Love it.
Seriously. So the beginning of it is called The Stranger in a House, and that's the story in that anthology coming out in October.
With which you are now making a series.
With which I will make into a series. Which I will make into a series. I will make.
Wow.
You know? So it's
any
time,
of this for television or fringe theatre or anything?
No idea. Let's see who is out there. Let's see who's out there who's interested.
Listening. Honestly, when I read, I'm telling you something, Deadly Sacrifice is definitely that kind of material. There's so much of it, you know. So, you know, I'm wanting the best for you. Please tell the viewers where they can contact you.
Right. So in terms of contacting me, I've got a website, an author website, Stella Oni the Writer, because there's quite a lot of Stella Onis out there. Yeah. So StellaOniTheWriter.com. Yeah. So then I've got my blog, AfricanBritishness.com. You can contact me on Twitter, which is SOni the Writer. Can contact me on Instagram, Stella Oni the Writer. Facebook page, Stella Oni the Writer.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Stella, it's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you today, and I know that we're going to have you back here. So I will say to the viewers, we are going to have you back with one of either the anthology or one of the series. We're going to have you back because the book is so interesting, and I would urge readers out there, please go and get a copy of Deadly Sacrifice. It is a well-written book, and I'm telling you, you'll be glued to it. So keep writing, keep giving us this really good stuff, Stella.
Thank you very much. Just to add that Deadly Sacrifice is part of Jacaranda Books,
right? Who
boldly decided to publish 20 black authors in 2020.
Right.
So if you want to pre-order, you can get Deadly Sacrifice from Jacaranda Books.
Wow.
Yeah, they've got a website. So Jacaranda Books Art Music Limited or Books Music Art Limited. I know. Because they're online. If you write, if you Google Jacaranda Books, you can.
So if you can talk a little bit about this 20 black authors and Jacaranda, just tell us a little bit more about that, because I thought that was a really bold move.
Yeah. So Jacaranda Books was founded by Valerie Brandes in, I think, about 7 years ago.
Yes.
Very bold, very passionate.
Yes.
And she wanted to create a publishing house that will publish black authors. She's very committed to that.
Yes.
And she's produced a lot of good quality work. You know, if you go on their websites, lots of, you know,
popular.
they're prize-winning publishing company as well.
Right, excellent.
So I think in 2018, and Val will, you know, she will attest to this. She said, "Oh gosh, you know, when I think of an idea, I'm like a steamroller, you know."
Is this you?
So she
was
like that. She thought about an idea of publishing 20 Black authors in 2020.
Excellent.
And
she did.
Before you could say Jack, she started.
Excellent.
It's huge work.
Really?
But the good thing is that she has collaborations as well. So
Yeah.
you have Foyle's Bookshop decided to do some collaboration.
Excellent.
London Library is a private library set in London, by the way, have been really good partners as well with this.
Yes.
And so many others are. So it's really, you know, it's a fantastic initiative, and you know, we call it #20 in 2020.
Excellent.
We'll have a hashtag.
And I'm happy to say that us here at MediaNet, myself and Theo Ambrose, are going to be talking to Jacaranda,
yes,
in September.
Fantastic.
About collaborative working.
Yeah,
and I'm really excited about it. And looking forward to it.
They're doing good work.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
It was wonderful having you. So until the next book.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thanks, Rose. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Stella.
I really appreciate it.
Yes, me too. Thank you, Stella.